Good morning, everyone. Today is May the 2nd in 2024. We're going to be talking about employee self-service. We've talked about it a lot, but we're going to take a little different turn on it. And we are also going to talk about the mobile app after Charles tells you all about it and how it works. So with that, Charles, would you please take it away?
Thank you very much, Saundra. So yes, I'll go ahead and take it away. So of course we have the two different topics here, and my name and Saundra's is on here just to give you an idea of who is going to be presenting the two different ones. And first I'm going to go to employee self-service, and here we are. So here we are inside for this particular employee, right? And we look at his personal information, right? Sonny Crockett, Miami Vice, that kind of thing. Now it does show you here that please configure your two-factor authentication. This is something that your employees do have available in employee self-service. They can set up a second authentication, a code to their phone as an additional security practice. You have that automatically as a Dash administrator. It's an option for the employees, but you might want to, for security purposes, to keep their information secure, request that they do the same. And there's also the availability to configure an electronic signature so they can sign things inside employee self-service that require that. This actually, if you have our onboarding service, should be configured at the time that they are going through the application process, so you wouldn't see that here if that you have that service. But these are just warning informations, notices. They do not interfere with the employee's ability to jump around and do things in here. And so what we're going to be looking at is the W-2 and the check, the checks electronically, the check statements rather. So we have had some of our clients ask why that can't be set up. The main reason is because the employee has to approve it. And so how they do that is they would go to their pay history, and then they would go to statements and notifications. And so down here, the electronic payroll statement enrollment. And this is where they can enroll in the electronic direct deposit vouchers by just clicking enroll. And this is where they can receive emails when new stuff is available. They can subscribe, and so that will allow them to do that for the statements. And then also, if there are taxes, that you should see that in the history as well. Now, I don't see that in here, probably most likely because we don't have that set up in our demonstration. But there would be the same kind of button for W-2s. Instead of direct deposit, it would say W-2s. And you would just have them enroll there. Once they enroll, they will be receiving them in employee self-service. They should be receiving a copy automatically, but they will be receiving only this version. It wouldn't be a paper one that you would be receiving and then sending to them. They would be only receiving the electronic version. Once they approve it, that's allowed. But the reason why it's that step is because of the law. The federal law is that if they are going to receive an electronic form, the employee has to approve it. And so that is the method by which they can do that. Yes. And then there was also, I think, and this is something that you sent over to me, there's these quick reference guides, which are available to you as to provide to your employees. Is we have this, and this is for using in the employee self-service where they can view, print their W-2s or 1099s and what steps they would go through to view and print them. And then also we have the pay statements right here. And so we have these guides for you, and you can just provide them to your employees because this is not any Dash information. This is employee self-service, or what's also known as My Dash. So all they would be viewing is their own information here.
That's a good distinction to make, Charles, because some employers are concerned that if they do have an employee self-service account, that they would be able to get into the company account. And that is not true. They cannot. They are setting up their own portal, just like you cannot get into their portal using their password, but you can see what they have opted into and what they've opted out of simply by going to the employee self-service tab in your Dash payroll account.
Yes, and this is exactly what the employee self-service as an employee level authorization has. We do have a separate admin level for employee self-service. That's the one where if you're an administrator, you can do approvals and things like that. You would see additional menu options, but this is all that the employee sees, all of this.
And it integrates with our time and attendance as well. So if you have our time and attendance service, they can clock in and clock out by using employee self-service. They can see their pay history, and they can also request time off. Charles, would you move over to that tab, please?
So I click on time off, and this is where you can actually do the time off requests.
Right.
This has a list of the requests, and then you can request a partial day off, a day off, or specify vacation. Right. So if I request a day off, then I would just be doing the amount of time and what form it is. I don't have any set up for this employee to do that request. So, but this is how that works.
And it's a nice thing too, because somebody might set up a request for vacation and they want to take a whole week, but with your records, you'll know that they don't have a whole week. So you can respond back and say, do you want to take one day of unpaid, or do they want to, if you're set up with the way that they can go negative and then make it up as they start accruing more time, it's up to your company policy. And that is also a segue into our onboarding system where, not onboarding, our accrual system where we can keep track of your time off for your employees. And you would also know what the employee has available and what is behind, or you can also track probation. And maybe they accrue while they're on probation, but they just can't use it. And by the time their probation period is over, they'll have a few hours that they can use if they need it. So company policies are very important when it comes to tracking accruals and employee self-service, because in employee self-service, and if you want them to be able to request time off through that, they have to be able to know what their hours are available. And that's something that we put in there when they have signed up for that. Okay.
Well, there's one thing I missed. It's like I was talking about how the notification for the W-2s to opt in would say W-2 on there, but it would also be a separate tab up here for the tax forms. So this right here, statements and notifications, this is for direct deposit and checks and all that kind of stuff. But for any W-2s or 1099s, there would be a separate tab for tax form. But again, it would be the same thing where it's just a button to enroll, and it would only say, instead of direct deposit vouchers, it would say W-2 or 1099.
The other side note to that is, if you are paying for delivery of paper pay stubs, you might want to suggest that your employees, you get ESS on your account, and then your employees can have their checks direct deposited and they can access their pay stubs themselves, and you'll save yourself delivery costs. If you have people who do not have direct deposits and they need a paper check, remember that PayrollCentric does offer pay cards, and they are just like a debit card. We load their payroll onto the debit card. So we would need a direct deposit authorization form because we're actually depositing money onto the pay card. It's much less than going to a check cashing place, and it is free to the employer. There is no cost except for the one-time setup fee to get it set up for you. And you are given the pay cards to distribute to whomever wants them. So it's actually, the ball's in your court. It's not difficult. You activate the card for the new employee if they need it, or you say, I only need like 5, and we send you 5 or 6, right? So it is a really good convenience for those employees who do not have bank accounts. Some companies have a lot of employees that don't, so they're on the pay card system and they love it.
Not only that, but if you have employees who still do not want to do direct deposit, still do not want to do a debit card, but you want to get rid of that delivery fee, or at least the delivery fee you have for every payroll, we do have what's called print back. And that's where you can print the checks on your side as soon as the payroll is processed. And what we do is we provide the check stock with the micro numbers, the magnetic ink character recognition numbers, those funny ones that you see at the bottom of the checks. We can provide you with that check stock for a fee, of course, but we provide you with that, and you just run it through your printer. Saves you on the delivery costs. You do have delivery for the check stock. There's a fee for the check stock, but over time, you do not have as many deliveries that you were required to pay for.
Good point, Charles. Thank you. Are there any questions before we move on?
Yeah, sorry. This is David. I am trying to figure out how I know whether previous employees are still on ESS and how I can turn them off, because I believe there's a small fee for everybody who has ESS access, right?
Well, here's what I can show you about that. Let me go ahead and get my thing signed in here. Just a second. So
ESS is the individual charge is 70 cents per employee per pay period. And when they are no longer employed by you, that means you're not typing a check for them or creating a check for them. So that fee goes away, because most of our companies are charged by number of checks created. So maybe you have 10 employees, but you only create 9 checks. That's why your payroll invoice would be different sometimes. It's because of the check cost.
Okay, so anybody who's not getting a direct deposit or check in a given pay period is not being charged an ESS fee or any other fee.
Yes. However, Charles is going to show you how to deactivate that employee so that they no longer have access. And when you terminate someone, or when somebody terminates from you voluntarily, you want to give them like a certain period of time to go into employee self-service and gather their check stubs. They're all PDFs, so they can gather them to their own. Your W-2s, they can put them on their computer, and that way you can disable it, say give them a week or something, and then after that week, send them a reminder, I'm going to turn off your ESS as of tomorrow, just to get them to get what they need, rather than coming back to you and saying, oh, I need my stuff for tax returns, et cetera.
Right.
And so here's where you would go. So this is you as the dash administrators. You go to company, and then you go to ESS setup user administration right here. And so as you see, I have my list of employees, and I'll see that only one of them is listed as having access to ESS. They've registered. I know it by that black X right there. So what I could do is I highlight the row that they're on. I don't click on the name, because if I click on the name, it will take me to the employee information area. But if I click on the row right here, it gives me just Sunny. And so I can go down here and I can click on disable, and that will disable their usage. I can also just go ahead and click on that black X, but then they would still be able to re-register. So it's better to just go ahead and click on disable, and it will disable them completely. You just look at.
Great.
And another time you might use that disabled tab is if they're on medical leave or they're not supposed to be accessing anything anyway. You can disable it for that period of time that they're gone.
And let's say you rehire them or they're back from leave, you can just click enable and you're all set.
It's as simple as that.
Okay. So you can do the same thing for, let's say, Emmett Brown when he's back from the future. Or Buffy when she's done with the vampires. So yeah, do all that.
Did that answer your question, David, including the trivia?
It did, yes. I appreciate the trivia.
Okay. All right, great.
So if there's nothing else, I guess I turn it over to Saundra. So are you ready, Saundra, for me to stop sharing?
Yes, let me get to my screen. Okay, so what we have here is a mobile app. And it's really cool because the employee can actually log onto their phone and get this information rather than having to sit in front of the computer. And so probably one of the greatest things that I discovered was, we're all on our phone all the time, right? And what if you're in, not going to be in that day and your computer's not open, so you can actually send a message or request the day off because you're sick through your app on the mobile phone. So this is what you'll see when you open up your link. And then the next slide that you're going to see is all the tabs that you can physically open up. You can look at your check, your information, which should be updated. By the way, that when they update their information in ESS, it automatically updates in Dash. And when the next sync is in our system, the employee's information will be updated. So that's pretty cool. And then you don't have to worry about all the Post-it notes surrounding your monitor. Then they can also look at their personal information. They can look at their pay stubs. Let me go back here so you can see their choices. And they can look at their time card to see, if they're clocking in and out, if they have timekeeping through us, that will be on there as well. And then the next one is they enroll here, or excuse me, they log in here. And just like, we do in our company, the personal information is here, and this is allowed to be edited if you say they can edit it, which we recommend that you do. And that way you don't have to worry about not having the right information when it comes time for W-2s at the end of the year. And then it will show them the basics of their paycheck, their check number, what they got paid, what their net was. And it will also go down to the direct deposit line so that, let me go back here and show you the direct deposit line. It can show their total earnings for the year, what their deductions are, and their entire history, which is where they'll want to go in order to get pay stubs if they were applying for a loan or a mortgage or whatever. Now, you don't have to do that, which saves you time because they can do it themselves. And then if they're on timekeeping, this shows what their time card is, what they've clocked in, when they've clocked out. And we also have a scheduling part of timekeeping. If you have people who are working on schedules, that scheduling part will be here as well if they want to grab a shift, if they have the ability to do so. Here's their summary of what their W-2 was and what their taxes are. I had somebody call me and actually stumped me. They said, what's my percentage that I'm claiming for my state taxes? And I finally found it. But he said, oh, good, we need to increase that so that he could catch up with some taxes or not have to owe so much. And so I, of course, called my buddy Charles and said, could you help me to do that, please? This is a really good tab because then they can talk to their accountant with real information, not a guess. And then this is where they can request their time off, whether it's sick or vacation or personal. Some companies don't have personal, they just have sick and vacation. Remember that the new sick laws for California is now 40 hours. It used to be 3 days, 24 hours, but now it's 40. So you'll have to keep that in mind and make sure that you have enough in your system for them to take their paid sick time. And then this is if they had scheduling. So they can schedule when they're here, schedule when they're not. And this gives them an opportunity to request a schedule if you have it in your timekeeping system, or report that they're not going to be there for a shift that they're supposed to report to, so that you can send out a blast to get somebody to replace that person. So that's basically the mobile app. It's very simple. And it is really one of those things that because everybody's on their phone and people are working remotely, they can use their phone for all of these things. We can also add in the timekeeping system GPS tracking, so that if they work from site to site, or if they're maybe a substitute teacher and they have to go to a special school, you can actually report where they clocked in. And the radius is 325 feet. So it's about the size of a football field, about where they actually clocked in. So you can see if it was at Starbucks or if it was actually where they're supposed to be. So that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions about that? Looks like we have a chat here.
It's asking, can we require all our employees to enroll in ESS? Do you have a checklist step-by-step on how to get employees enrolled in ESS? Can the employer set up the employee in ESS instead of the employee setting up? And is pay history not available without having time and attendance set up? You mind if I answer a few of those?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, can we require all our employees to enroll in employee self-service? That's more of a legal question. We can't really advise on that. But that's
companies have, though.
Yeah, there are companies that have, but what you cannot require them to do is you cannot require them to be on direct deposit. If they want to get a live check, they can get a live check. You can't require them to get to get electronic versions. That's why the approval has to be done by the employee. They have to opt in. So you can have all your employees enrolled in employee self-service from the beginning. If you have our onboarding service, it happens automatically when they are filling out the paperwork. But you cannot require them to have direct deposit if they do not wish to, and you cannot require them to have electronic versions of the W-2s or the check statements if they choose not to. Do you have a checklist step-by-step on how to get employees enrolled? We do have a guide. We do have some videos that are actually in the links inside Dash, And we do offer where we can walk you through it with your employee on how to do that. So yeah, we have a wide variety. And we do have our webinars where we have actually gone through how to do that as well. Can an employer set up an employee self-service instead of the employee setting it up? Is that possible? Yes. Is it recommended? I would not recommend that, because the employee, when you have the employee doing it, it makes them more secure. They select their own username and their own password. And is the pay history not available without having time and attendance set up? The pay history is something that's in Dash. All those checks, right? All those check statements, all those W-2s, that's in our Dash system.
So ESS, we've covered this a lot, but it happens to be one of PayrollCentric's favorite services. It's less work for you, the administrator. It puts the onus on the employee to make sure that their information is correct. And sometimes one of the biggest troubleshooting questions we get asked is the employee cannot log into ESS. And it usually is because they moved and didn't tell you and their zip code is not the same. So that's a way to find out if they've moved, so that when they get their W-2, it goes to the right address and they get their W-2 in time. But having ESS and opting into electronic W-2s, they will get their W-2 before you even get them in the mail. Because as soon as the W-2s are processed for your account, it gets uploaded to the account, therefore uploaded to employee self-service and into Dash for you. And then we put it in the mail. And, sometimes it takes a little longer to get it that way. All right.
Especially since you have employees that now are like asking for the W-2s as soon as they're prepared. Having them online like this in a secured format that we do enables the employee to just grab it and just start with their returns. So we have that functionality. Our employee self-service is very adaptable to whatever needs you need for your employees.
Right. We can do pretty much anything you want us to do. Isn't that cool? Pretty much anything. All right. Well, if we do not have any further questions, we had a great turnout today. Thank you again for being part of PayrollCentric's family and for joining us today. We hope you found this webinar informative. And if you've got some suggestions for more information that you would like on other parts of Dash, or if you would like us to get a labor law attorney, please send me an email to stampley@payrollcentric.com. All right. Thank you, everyone. Happy May. I hope you have a great week. And Cinco de Mayo is coming up. So the next time we're going to see you is on the 9th of May. And we've got some great topics coming up for then. I don't want to take any longer. You will see them in your email invitation. And please feel free to pass it along to anybody in your company who might benefit from the information. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye for now.